Hello everyone and welcome to another Cattails video. So today we're going to be talking about watercolor pencils. Hope you're ready. So the first thing that I've done is I've taken some watercolor paper and I have sectioned out all of the pieces or all the parts with some washi tape. You can use paper tape as well. And I've labeled them here, but you can wait until you're finished to label them. You can label it where the leftover white is underneath the tape. I got a little impatient and wanted to remember what I was doing, so I decided to write it on there. So I have that. The kind of paper I'm using is a Fabrino paper, 100% cotton, hot pressed, so it's very smooth. Cold pressed paper is a bit more, it has more texture, but Fabrino is, not Fabrino, but hot pressed is very smooth, like almost no grain whatsoever. And I prefer to do that for using watercolors, because watercolor pencils, I think watercolor pencils go down better whenever the paper is smoother. You won't see as much of the texture when you originally put down the pencil for some of these techniques. So I think it's kind of, it's a good, I guess, sketch paper, copy paper equivalent for watercolor. You won't get so much of the texture, and I like that. So that's what I'm going for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the things that we need. Paper, of course, you need your washi tape, pen to write down all of the things that we're going to do. You need some watercolor pencils. Any set will do. I have several different kinds. I think today I'm going to be using my Van Gogh ones, though I also have like a children's / student set of Faber-Castell watercolor pencils, and actually these are my favorite ones so far. I don't have any really good watercolor pencils right now, though the Van Goghs are pretty good. But I'll tell you about something I don't really like about them later on. It's not really relevant right now. But yeah, so far these are my favorite. But I'm going to use the Van Goghs most likely today. Also, what you are going to need is you are going to need water. 1 jar of water should be okay for this, unlike watercolor, like regular watercolors like these, or tubes or anything. You probably won't need to rinse your brush in a second jar. You won't pick up as much pigment because the watercolor pencils don't lay down as much pigment. So you will probably be okay with 1 jar of water. That being said, do what you want. I'm still for having 2 jars of water. So paper, pen, tape, watercolor pencils, water, and a towel or tissue. I like to have my towel on hand just to dry my brush if it's too much water. Tissue also on hand to for blotting, because we're going to do some lifting techniques. And I think that's it. If I forget anything, I'll let you know. Also, actually, yes, there's one more thing that you might want to keep on hand because it's good for pencils. Pencil sharpener. It can also be a teeny one. So don't worry. Just use what you've got. All right. So those are the supplies. Let's get into it. Okay, so I've moved my camera around so we can get a better angle on this, because I don't really have too many cameras right now. So pardon me if my camera angle is really weird. So let's check and see if this is okay. Okay, so let's see. There we go. All right, pardon the angle. But hopefully my other camera is going to record this better. So let's see. We're going to start here with a flat wash. And so what we do, just like when we do watercolors, basic watercolors, or like watercolor tubes or pans, we're going to start with coloring in the whole square with an even color or even coating. So I'm going to take my green actually. And I'm going to try not to make it too dark in certain areas, though that might happen. So I'm just going to try to make it an even color all around. Okay, and I'm going to take a brush. That is what I forgot. Oh, that's so important. Why did I forget? Well, anyway, I'm going to use the brush that I have here. There's also, you can also use a flat brush, which actually is pretty good for this. So maybe I'll get one of those out too. For the flat washes, I do like to use a flat brush. It's just easier, I think. So I'm gonna take my water, because my water is off to the side here. And I'm gonna move my towel over. I don't want too much water on my brush. I'll have some. And then I'm gonna go from side to side, trying to keep the color as even as I possibly can. Trying to even out the color. All the way across. But what you can still see is that it is all green, and it's basically the same tone everywhere. There's no, not tone, but like it is the same across the whole section. There's no darker and lighter areas. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go to the gradient. Gradient is also similar to watercolors in that you start with a darker area and go to light. So I'm going to use a different color for that one. I'll use pink. So I'm going to make this pretty dark at the top. Make sure my tape is down properly. Okay, I'll make this pretty dark at the top. And then as I go down, I'm going to lighten up. But because these are watercolor pencils, I'm probably not going to bring this down too far. I'm going to leave it so it's a little bit white at the bottom. Because you want to fade into like white. So I stopped kind of right here. And the reason why I did that is because whenever you're using watercolor pencils, it's going to pull down some of the color. So you're going to end up with more color down here anyway. So you might want to be careful. I'm going to switch to this brush this time. This is Mural Art. This is like a Taiwanese brand, I think. Number 2. It's really big for a 2. But yeah, that's just the brand. So I'm just going to make sure that it's all dark and stuff there. Start bringing it down. Get some water. Keep bringing it down. Just a little at a time. And there is the gradient. So we're going to let that dry. Both of these are still very wet, but you can see that it goes from darkest to lightest, fading right out until you get to the white. Now we're going to go to gradient with 2 colors. You're going to do the same thing as you did here, but you're going to do darkest colors, 2 different colors, darkest colors on the bottom and fading into each other. So I'm going to choose another different color. Actually, I'll use the blue and pink. How about that? So I'll start with my pink. I need to sharpen my pencil, by the way. I try not to sharpen my pencils too much because they just break off and it's a waste of lead because you can use that for paint. So I don't really want to sharpen it yet because I'm afraid it's going to break off. All right, I'm going to go from the bottom. I know you can't see my label now. I'm going to put a little bit in the other shade, not too much. All right, so now I'm going to go back. I'm not going to dry my brush too much this time. There is a little too much water though. Bring it down. Okay, don't want to mix it too much. Don't want it to get super muddy. And I'm dipping in water and before I switch colors, and I love this blue so much. I'm gonna bring it up a little, clean my brush a bit, bring this down a bit. So this blue, I brought it down, or I brought it up too much, so it kind of goes too high, but it does blend a bit. It does blend pretty well. So you have a gradient that becomes a bit purple in the middle. So it's going to dry lighter than it is, but still, this is a very vibrant blue, and I should have done like a smaller area of blue. Good. So that is gradient with two colors. Now let's go to lifting. I will use a orange. I'm just choosing colors at random, actually. It's not really anything important. I am doing a flat wash first. I'm making it a bit darker than I did the first one. So I'm pressing a bit harder. Also, I need to sharpen my pencil. So I will do that. Don't sharpen it too much. I'm gonna go the other direction because I'm gonna make this a bit darker. When you're using colored pencils and you want to make it darker, you have to lay down the pencil in a few layers and maybe going in different directions. It helps fill in the gaps. So from my experience, and I've said before several times that I am no professional, and I'm still learning more about watercolor pencils, but this is what I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet my brush and then complete the wash. See, that turned out a lot better than the first flat wash that we did. Try not to get my brush in the colors from the tape. Okay, there we go. Good. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take while it's still wet, we're going to take tissue and blot, 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 blot. We're going to make some clouds. So blotting, blotting, blotting. Lifting, 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 making some really ugly clouds, but make sure that you change it because obviously it is a tissue. It's going to get weird. Gross as you use it on a wet surface. So I let mine dry a little too much. I didn't leave enough water on the bottom, so you can't see the cloud very much. But here at the top, it turned out okay. Like I lifted up enough of the orange to leave like a little bit lighter orange cloud. So that's what lifting does. It takes off some of the color that you've put down. And now I need a new tissue because this one's all messed up. So keep that one at hand. Now this one is wet pencil. And this one isn't my favorite way to use this. What you do is that you make sure that your pencil is a little bit wet on the end. And maybe this pencil might not be the best. Van Goghs have and I was telling you about that. I would explain what I don't like about this is that whenever they're new, they come with some little glaze or something on the outside, so it makes it really hard to paint with it on the without sharpening it first and getting to taking that coating off. but this one is sharpened, so it should be fine. So I'm just gonna like dip it in water, like not past the wood. I don't want to damage the wood. I'm just gonna dip the tip, like the pigmented part, in water. So I'll show you. So I'll take it, and I don't know if you can see, but I'll just stick only the tip of it in the water. And I'm gonna draw a picture. Just gonna draw a heart. So you can draw with a wet pencil. It's a little smoother, but also it doesn't look very nice. It doesn't look as nice as if you were to paint it, or if you were to draw it first with a dry with a dry watercolor pencil. It doesn't look as good. And then add water on top of it. So it's hard to see, but like it is pretty dark. You can get a lot of pigment that way because you're using it straight from the pencil. But I'll show you a little bit differently how it's a bit different. If you dry your pencil first and you draw a heart, and then you paint over it, it looks a lot nicer. Like, it's not as vibrant, of course, but it looks prettier. And later, I know it's really hard to see what I've done, like the difference, but I'll take a few pictures later and post them in the video, so you can see the difference as well. So here, this is wet pencil, and this is drawing with a dry pencil first and then covering it with water. And so you can see it's a little bit evener. It's more even, it's flatter. This one, you can see all the pencil strokes in there because I am coloring with water on a pencil. So you can see all the strokes. It looks really blah and messy. So I prefer not to do that. So now the next one is painting from the pencil, which is what I was explaining before. About why I don't like these, because you can see it on this. It's white. It's like a little white film on it. There's on all of my Van Gogh pencils because I haven't sharpened it yet, so it's still on there. So it makes painting from the pencil a little bit hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that same purple that I was using before because it's already sharpened and that coating is off. So you can paint directly from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, I don't know, I'm just going to paint whatever I feel like it. So still going with just the tip, trying not to get the wood. It's kind of hard. But I'm going to draw maybe a gradient. You can try a gradient. Trying to hold it away from my computer. Might be a bit difficult to do a gradient. So that's a gradient. It's a bit pale. But that's what happens when you paint. Ooh. That's why we have towels. But that's why I prefer doing the washes like this, like the gradients like this, or washes like this, like drawing first, because you can get much more pigment on the paper than you can just painting from this. However, you can layer, like you paint, wait for it to dry, paint over it again, dry, paint again. You can layer to build up the colors, of course. So now for the second/last thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a palette. And what I mean by palette is like you're going to make something like one of these, but you're going to make it by taking your color pencils and making little color wells on the paper. So you can draw some little circles of color or whatever shape you like, and then draw or paint a picture using that as a palette. So what I'm gonna do is I'll make like a hill scene. It's gonna be a little bit weird because I'm probably not gonna let it dry fast enough, so it might bleed into each other, but we'll see. Because I don't have my hair dryer right now, and I'm trying to do this in one sitting, in one take. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some hills. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a green for some hills, maybe a purple as well. One thing that's good though is that watercolor pencils dry quickly when you're painting, because you don't use as much water as you do traditional watercolors. So these colors right here for the sunset. Honestly, I don't need this many colors. I just like to use them or have them ready in case I do want to use them. And maybe I'll have some blue as well. It's good to have blue for the sky and maybe for water as well, if I decide to put water in. All right, so I have my colors. So now this is my palette. I'm gonna paint with it on this side. And what you can do if you run out of paint on this side, and you'll see how it runs out of paint, you just color more on top and then paint again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the sky, going to do a gradient. I'm gonna do a gradient from purple. Yeah, from purple. So I'm gonna paint a little bit. Purple, and then I'm gonna go to pink. There's some pink in there. And I'll scan these and add it in the description later. Like not description, sorry. But I'm just gonna add it, a photo of it later. So I'm just taking all the colors and like just mixing them in. So what I'm doing right now actually is I'm doing wet on wet. So I'm putting some clean water down first, and then I'm putting some water on top, or not some water, some paint on top of that, to blend the colors out a little bit better. I know I didn't go over that in this video, but it's in my other video. Might not be the best video, but I do talk about it. I'm gonna go for yellow. I'm gonna put a lot of yellow in there. And then actually, what if I do like a field instead? That's good. I like a field. Yeah, probably be better anyway. I like a good field. Okay, trying to keep that from bleeding into each other. Oops, someone might see that's what happens when it chips. The watercolor pencil chips. I got a bit of orange in there. It's not what I wanted. So I've created like a little evening sky. I'm gonna add some pink in the bottom. Adding some pink in the bottom. And then, ta-da, let's do some lifting. Actually, I'm gonna use like a little Q-tip this time because it is a bit small to be doing this with a tissue. If you had a bigger canvas, I would do it with tissue, but I think a Q-tip also works. I'm going to blot a little bit with a tissue though. Get the smaller areas with a Q-tip. Okay, some of my clouds didn't turn out so good. Probably because there's more yellow there. You can't really see the clouds. Then I'll put one up here. Still can't see very well. It dried. All right, so now I have my little landscape. It's pretty cute, right? It's still wet, but you can see there's some clouds in there. There's another cloud that's kind of blending into the yellow and then the grass. So what you can do is just use your palette to make a nice little scene. And maybe I'll put a tree in there later. I don't know. It just depends. So that is how to use watercolor pencils. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was really helpful. I know I'm a beginner too, but I know like even beginners can get these things down. So I'm just trying to help out as much as I can because recently I've heard that a lot of people that I know wanted to know how to use watercolor pencils and I like to use them. So I just figured why not make a video about it. So I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment down below if you want to see something new or see me do something else. I'm going to be putting a speed paint later about how to use watercolor pencils, how to make a face. It's just how I make it to show how to do the different techniques like that I've done, plus a couple of others. I'll see you later. Like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah. All right. See you later. Bye for now.